There's even a modern offshoot of the Clootie tree called a wish tree, sometimes seen as witch tree, where one hangs good wishes for the future and other signs of luck. Students of religion will no doubt see similarities to India's sacred Bodhi tree and even to our modern Christmas tree, because trees have symbolic value in many faith traditions. The custom of hanging rags on trees is particularly strong among Ireland's traveller community, an indigenous minority of nomadic people whose culture is very old and whom still maintain many ancient customs that have largely died out among the rest of the population. So for us today, we will be creating our very own Clootie tree with strips of fabric that have on them the name of an ancestor who you wish to honor. And we have baskets of the strips and pens if there's anybody who did not receive one when they came in. Is there anybody, if you'd raise your hand, we'll give one to you. And there's one over there that needs a strip over there. So after you write the names of your ancestors on your fabric, and I suggest you use a hymn book to put the fabric down and write on, because the fabric is a little tricky. You can bring the fabric strips up and tie them or lay them gently on the tree branches.
We have a responsive reading called The Sacred Thread by Heather K. Januels, and it's in your insert if you want to. The portions for all of us to read together are in italics. Okay. They once dwelled among us, the people of memory. They who knew us, they who taught us, they who heard us, they who loved us. They touch our lives time and again through their presence and through their absence. All through familiar scents and favorite songs, through old stories and renewed sorrow. As the earth turns and leaves fall, we reach back to renew the bonds between us. With hearts and hands open, we hold on to love, ever stronger than death. We reach back in gratitude and understanding without our time together, the pain and the joy. We would never be who we are today. We would have little to pass on ourselves. Without fear, with thanksgiving, and with hope for all that awaits, we remember those who have gone before. We honor the circle of life and death and are safe in this sacred thread.
It's both very comforting and also very inspiring to remember our ancestors today. Those who have gone before in this congregation, in our families, in our circle of friends, are remembered here in love and in appreciation. For several years now, UUCA has at this time of year celebrated Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, with a distinctly Mexican flavor. And we have here on the table a few of those mementos. Dia de los Muertos is a custom that drew me for the very first time to visit this church when Doug Martin gave a talk. I couldn't say it was a sermon because it was more sociological than theological about the festival. The end of October is known as a liminal space and time, said to be the time when the veil separating this life from the afterlife becomes very thin. Not only Halloween, but Samhain, All Saints and All Souls days give us the chance culturally and religiously to reflect on those who have gone before. Some of these remembrances are solemn and some are more celebratory. And Dia de los Muertos is a very colorful and festive occasion because of the custom of decorating with calaveras, decorated skulls, and creating altars or ofrendas in the home to hold the favorite food and drink of the family's departed loved ones. And this is the time of year when, if you haven't seen the film Coco, you need to find it on Netflix or rent it at Redbox. It will give you a real sense of the necessity of remembering. So today we are going to broaden out our appreciation of this time of year of remembrance from Dia de los Muertos. Maybe you haven't thought about a deceased grandparent or aunt or parent or a friend or colleague in a while. And the Cloutey tree gives us all an opportunity to visually honor them. And in doing so, to join with the living to say that the dead matter. And we will join them one day, so it is also a recognition that we will get even closer to death someday than tying a ribbon for our loved ones who have died. After the service, I invite you all to come up and take a look at the names of the loved ones whose memories are being held here in this sanctuary. I'm reminded of the wonderful story by James Joyce, The Dead, which actually takes place on the Christian Feast of the Epiphany in January. The final sentence of the story is beautifully written and in part says about the main character of the story that he heard the snow falling faintly through the universe and faintly falling like the descent of their last end upon all the living and the dead. the descent of their last end. It may seem very gloomy to think of it. And those who are Irish may well know, Pat, the melancholy that can set in with memorializing the dead, but can also appreciate, like Dia de los Muertos, the raucous wakes that often precede the funeral mass in Ireland and in many Irish families. And I just wanted to tell you the story of a visit that Will and I made many years ago to Ireland, to Cashel. And when we went to Cashel, we were in time to go for dinner at the pub, and we walked in, and after we'd had dinner, and then we walked into the pub for a drink afterwards, and there were people setting up in a little room, and music was playing, and the drinks were flowing, and they welcomed us in, and we had a great time in that pub, thinking, wow, these pubs are better than the pubs in Yorkshire. And then we went back to our hotel, and then the next morning it was Palm Sunday, and so at that time we were practicing Catholics, and we decided we were going to go to Mass, and we walked in and we saw a few familiar faces from the pub the night before, and we walked in, and there at the bottom of the altar was a casket. And we were a little taken aback because it was Palm Sunday. We didn't know why there would be a casket there. And so all of the family filed in at the beginning of the Mass, and it was all the people who we'd been at the pub with the night before. They'd been having a wake for their dear departed mother, and we had crashed the wake. But they didn't mind. They didn't care. And so they had welcomed us. That kind of remembering, of welcoming in people to appreciate the memory of those that we have lost is a wonderful thing. And I love the way that this community has, year after year, made it clear that we value taking the time, this time, to reach back in gratitude and understanding. It teaches our children that we care about those who have gone before, because the ancestors have helped make us who we are today. We will be the ancestors of those children here now. What will we leave them? What will they remember about us? What will they say of us as they write our names on the klute? Maybe not to hang on a tree, but to rest in their minds and hearts. Our closing hymn, Spirit of Life, makes reference to roots that hold us close. Just mentioning the hymn. Just mentioning the hymn. He's very reactive, isn't he? Our closing hymn, Spirit of Life, makes reference to roots that hold us close. Those roots include the legacy and the memory of those who established this congregation in 1954. And they hold us and call us back to the values of our faith tradition. But we also sing in that song, "Wings Set Us Free." Without those who came before, we wouldn't have the freedom of religion, the freedom to question and to seek our own spiritual path. A little while ago, we heard Kathleen McTeague's words about those who have gone before. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. We take them with us, and with them choose the deeper path of living. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.